We don't do ऐसे बहुत formal वाले introductions, and I'm sure with the 5-minute chat that we've had right now, the students have caught up on whatever they need to know about you. So basically, the way we keep this is it's just like a conversation. I throw a few random questions, and you can elaborate on those. And if you're comfortable with it, we can take Q&A at the end of the session, or would you like it to be interwoven as we go along?
As we go along, of course.
Oh, all right, great, cool.
Yeah.
So
okay. So obviously this I've prepared this presentation after thinking about it long, because first of all, I don't think I'm qualified enough to give advice, but the right way to go about this, I thought, was to share what I think it would have been good to know when I was graduating or studying in Gokhale. And it's a little bit about myself. It's not changing now. Could you see the change? Okay.
No.
Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not very proud of this fact, but I was not the best student out there. I was not completely a failure. I did top a few subjects, but overall, I was not doing great. But I did get the best job in that year, CitiBank, which was later called TCS eServe. And then I left the job, joined a startup at a lower salary, started my own company and sold it for multi-million dollars. But I did not get any of it because it was an all stock deal where I got the shares of the other company, but that company never went public. So I did not make any money. But it did feel good. Then I joined Udacity. Some of you might know it as the country manager. And then I left it to join TripAdvisor. TripAdvisor, I'm sure a lot of... Hi, sir. How are you doing?
Sorry for late joining. Please continue.
Yeah. I joined TripAdvisor as India lead. I'm sure TripAdvisor must be something a lot of you must have known. And then I consulted FamPay. FamPay is a startup in fintech area where they provide prepaid debit cards for teenagers who cannot open their bank account yet. It's a massive success among students, especially those below 18 years of age. And they just raised rupees 300 crores. And I was the part when they did not have any money, and I'm still very close to them. But more importantly, I wanted to build my own company always. So I left that consulting job to work on my new startup called Tortoise since last 1 year. Hopefully, this will be my... I would want to keep working, but hopefully this will end up in a much larger outcome out of all these. So you can see, like, by the way, Anurag sir just joined.
You should have an IPO first, eh?
I hope, sir. I hope. So, funny, just Anurag sir joined. I was really bad at econometrics, and I can really tell you, econometrics is one of the most important subject you can learn in Gokhale, at least.
It is praise or what? I don't understand, huh?
It's a definitive praise. And okay, so it's been 11 years since I left Gokhale, and have worked in all levels as a junior associate kind of a role to CEO or country head, and I've seen a lot of people, and I usually pride myself in the fact that I observe a lot. And so some of these things are not my own personal experience, but also general observation from people I've known and come to admire and get inspired from. So, before we start, just wanted to let this know that we floated a small form where 108 of you responded. And I asked that, what do you want to do? And it was not supposed to be any insight or something, but I just wanted to know what's the current trend, because I was probably the only person in my Gokhale class, and even in in my engineering class. I did. Oh, by the way, I was probably the first engineer to join Master in Economics at Gokhale, and
You have to correct, huh? You were not first. You were one of the first actually.
one of the first. Okay.
Yeah.
So very few people wanted to do a startup, and it's good to know that I think 8 people wrote that they wanted to do a startup. I think this small sliver, 8 or 4, I don't remember, but a lot of people said that for ultimately they want to do a startup in the second question. But I'm especially pleased at the fact that 21% folks said that they're not sure, uh, which is a good place to be. I mean, if you're sure, then there's a very good chance that you have formed your opinions too soon. So, so yeah.
Vardhan, thanks for this particular 21% because generally they were treated in that they don't know what they want to do. They have no idea about in future. But that is correct idea actually. I feel
Yeah,
so.
actually, that's what I'm saying. 21% is actually great, and even I mean, it's actually good to know what you want to do, but I would say flexibility is very important, and it's actually, I mean, so this is the thing that I want to say, that given India's situation right now, all of you will do fine financially. I mean, I don't know if you will have heartbreaks or fights or I don't know what, but but yeah, you'll all will do fine financially. You'll have home, you'll have cars, you'll have vacations, and all the things which you associate with a good career. You all will have it coming from Gokhale. And while some of you might take more time to reach there, but you can be assured that you'll all achieve that part. So that's one thing which I want to make sure that you all know. On academic excellence, I always thought that it's not important partially because I myself was never an excellent student. I was just trying to justify it, but it is important, and not important from the point of view of the fact that you know your subjects really well, or you're more intelligent, but it's a representation of your capability to operate under defined environment, which means that if you're looking for a corporate job, or a job or a career in academics, then ideally you should be already doing good in academics, because academics define your capability to take some instructions, take a defined curriculum to a certain level, of course, and then represent it back in an environment which is standard, which is your tests. And most of the things in jobs, and in not too much in research, but non-research academia, is sort of well defined. Until you're trying to break the barriers and trying to do something new, these are things which are well defined by people who are very good in their work, and you can do well there. So if you want to achieve excellence in those areas, academic excellence is indispensable. So I would say that if you're not doing great in academics, then my next advice would be for you is that improvement is overrated. Obviously, there are certain areas where you can't leave it, but the idea is to very, very quickly identify what you're really good at. Because if you're not good at econometrics, you will take a lot of time to to achieve any level of standard understanding.
Yeah,
And
true.
you will not be able to perform better than people who are already really good at it.
Vardhan, you are putting pressure on your, we can say, juniors. They are going to teach econometrics. Remember it.
So I said, sir, I think I mean, these batches are going through selection process, which I think is much more tough than what we went through. So I'm
Yes.
sure that the base level skills is far higher. All I wanted to say is that while obviously it is not a excuse to not improve anything, but it's important to find your strength and double down on it. Because as I found out, and as I found out, a lot of my peers, they truly, I mean, the shine really came through when they understood what they were really good at. and then they followed that path. And I've seen, I'm lucky to have a lot of close friends from my college days, both from engineering as well as Gokhale. And all of them were looking so similar when we were studying. All of them were doing good or roughly bad in academics. And there was no, they were just near the bunch of the source. And this was indistinguishable. And as they branched out, I could see that they have picked up the things that they are good at. For example, Barker, one of my closest friend, he always wanted to be a person who has, publicly economics. This thing, he wanted to be a public figure for economics, and I think he's on his way to become the India chief economist for CitiBank in next few years' time. Then Zubair always knew that he wanted to be in economic services, and he's IES. And they sort of doubled down. Zubair did not started doing startups, and Barker did not tell me that. In fact, I tried to convince Barker to join me in my startups, and he did not. And so that's what I'm talking about. Like, I think Barker would have not done so great in startup because startups is so crazy, and you don't have defined path, and there's no textbooks, and there's no exams, and there's no well-defined pace to understand if you're improving or not, or if you're progressing or not. And that is something which I think I'm okay in versus a lot of other folks. So I think I double down on my strengths, and you should find your own strengths and try to double down. And this is a tough part. I'm just putting up a slide here, but it will take a lot of time to identify what thing you're good at. And yeah, this is I think this is one thing which I wish I knew really well, because I think I've watched a few Hollywood movies or horrible series. I think I've watched few things which led me to believe that you can be bad in few things and you can be great in few things. But the reality is that most people who are really good are good in a lot of things, if not all of them. So, take for example, anyone who's topping your class, you'll find that their notes are really good. You'll also find their studying schedule is also conventionally good. You'll also find that they ask better questions. It's not like, that whole notion of, bad scientists or backbenchers is overrated, and your excellence shine through in even the smallest of your tasks. And so I think people should not try to balance one thing over the other, and they should look at the process and try to improvise on all possible parameters. This is slightly difficult to follow, or it's not so much actionable as it is an observation. So I don't know how to translate it into actionable advice, but what I'm just trying to say is that at least don't try the other thing. Don't think that you can do just one thing really well and people will start understanding or considering you as really good. People generally expect everything to be good from a person who is really good. When I say everything, I mean in that area of performance. These are things which are outside the academic and professionalist thing, and also which impacts your life a lot in terms of achievement, which is master both storytelling and data. And we are lucky, and that's why I chuckled when Sir Anurag sir joined the call. Data is something which understanding of data is a superpower, and but howsoever data you might have, in order to convince a room full of people, either as investors or your boss or your colleagues, you have to be really good in storytelling. And storytelling is not. Look at most of the leaders, religious leaders as well, and some of the most famous figures in the history of human race. You'll find that all of them were really good in storytelling. And we now, given the advancement of science, you will now know that a lot of these things that they said were wrong or incorrect, but they were able to move the masses, and that really matters. And so storytelling is good for convincing people, but data is good for finding the truth. And if you can master both, then you are invincible, because you will understand bullshit from real advice. I'm sorry for the word, and you will also be able to you'll also be able to influence others towards what you really want to achieve. This is a recommendation. I've circulated this file internally. Furnham Street is one of the best blog ever if you want to read into psychology and all that. But major cognitive biases, and there are 25 of them which are major, then there are 50, 60 keep coming up. But these cognitive biases are, I think I studied them in 2 to 3 years after I graduated, and it changed me as a person because I started understanding why I am behaving in the way I am, why I am adamant on my decisions, why I think I'm right, and all of these ties up to these cognitive biases. I think if somebody can tell me what are the first things you should understand as you're growing in academics and career, I think understanding cognitive biases, one small part of human psychology, but understanding cognitive biases will give you the power to understand others as well, why they are behaving in that way and why you are behaving in that way, and try to bridge this, and therefore resulting in better connection and better understanding of each other. Most important skills is writing well, everywhere, academics, corporate, everywhere. And it does not come with studying in an English medium school or getting better marks in English. It's something which will come with practice and a lot of it. I still have my emails from 2000. I actually wrote to Nobel laureates when I was in Gokhale. I don't know if I told ever, but I wrote to a lot of folks, and I cringe at my writing because thanks to British education system, we all have mastered that ultra flowery, dear sir, respected sir, please kindly have a look, and that kind of a language. And I've now learned better. But the thing is that I started writing back in my school as well. I contacted NASA. I said that I want to join NASA. I contacted ISRO. And I'm talking about non-email. I'm talking about hard letters. I started writing letters when I was in 8th or 10th standard. And that has served me a lot because I can write to anyone and I generally get a response. And this has been a superpower for me as well as a lot of people I've seen around me. Presentation, I mean, I know this presentation is not great, which I'm presenting to you, because it literally I spent 1 hour on that. But if something is really important, for example, my investment deck is often cited as one of the best investment deck by my peers, and that is important. Presentation is not about just building PowerPoint presentation or decks, but also about presenting your thoughts or your theory or your whatever convincing point you want to put across. We are humans. We appreciate beauty and we cleanliness in the way things are presented. And so if things are not looking good, we get distracted. So it should not be beautiful, but it should be clean and it should support the quality of your argument. If you're presenting something important, it should come out as important. It should be presented in a way. And so for example, Canva.com is my go-to tool. PowerPoint is too old. I remember using Google Slides a couple of years ago, and somebody told me, who was 23-year-old, कि आप मेरे professors की तरह लिख रहे हैं. I thought this is too. So I started using Canva. Canva is the same thing which I've used here right now for this presentation. It has a lot of presentation, free of cost, amazing tool. You all should explore it. And the third is persuasion. And persuasion is something which you have to learn, because we all are very suspecting of each other. Especially India is a very low trust nation. We are all suspecting all the time that the other person is trying to take advantage of us. And so it's really important to have this skill of coming across as a person who does not have a hidden agenda and who is honest. And this will help you a lot. And this is something which colleges won't teach you. But you'll automatically find out that some of your batchmates enjoy better, convincing powers or skills than others. and you just have to observe them. Bakar was someone who was loved by everyone. I was someone who was, I mean, there was a round going on. I got to know after a few months in college that people were not talking to me. And so I learned a lot from that. I learned a lot from my peers and persuasion is something which is important, because you might have the greatest ideas and the best things to do and really impactful things to achieve. But if you're not able to convince other human beings to support you, then it'll be very tough. And in the end, I think this is important. Be a good human being, because ultimately all the joys will come from your human connections, your family, friends. I still long to spend time with Bakar and Saharsh, the two friendships I formed at Gokhale, and I think will probably go along all my life. And there was nothing academic or career-wise there. I think I derive the most joy from those conversations we have till 3 a.m. in the morning. I don't know, man. So I think this is something which is important. Do try to strive for excellence, but not at the cost of your human connections, is what I would suggest. That's it. And I have a few pictures from this thing. So, by the way, I've not told this, but Surbhi and me both studied in Gokhale, and she's my wife now.
Unique club we have, very unique club we have, and we are going to arrange one program for that. Okay, we are going to call all the couples of Gokhale Institute,
Yes.
and Ashish will be handling that entire program, because we have our director itself. Starting from the director.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is from the foundation day. The foundation stone. I think early first week or second week there was a tradition to go to this small trekkish path, and then this is the first time. I think this is 15th August celebration, where they used to distribute free coffee and I think a snack. This was really, I mean, when we are student, anything for free is great. So
Absolutely.
yeah, that's all from my side, and open to any questions.
Great. Wow.
Vardhan, thanks for giving so clear-cut thought about yourself and how you proceed yourself. Really great to listen you back and great to meet you after a very long time, actually.
Yes, sir.
Hope we will be meeting more.
Of course, sir. I hope so. In person as well.
Super cool. So open for questions, and till you guys, so you can either write out the question in the chat box, or you can just unmute yourselves. And then till then, I'll keep asking questions. So, all right. So I think what would be really interesting, and especially because, like we said, a lot of the TY kids are also sitting for placements right now. And you yourself mentioned that you're looking at hiring people. So now that you're at the other end, what would you recommend, or what would be your advice for someone who is sitting for internships at the end of graduation? So let me make it a twofold question. The first thing, do you recommend going for a master's directly, or in your opinion is working before either a MSc or an MBA or something that you think works out better? And then secondly, how then should you sort of approach your placement process at the end of graduation?
Definitely. So I mean, on the master's part, I think it's a very subjective and individual path. If the master's is 4 years, if the bachelor's is 4 years, then generally, I'm sorry, I don't know if Gokhale bachelor's did not exist when I was studying.
This is a three-year BSc economics. Yeah.
The one downside of a 3-year degree is that if you want to do masters later on, some of the countries around the world, they don't consider a 3-year degree as the bachelor's. So that might be a small issue, but I mean, it's very subjective. If you can get a great head start after bachelor's, then you can postpone the master's thing for later on. Masters should not be necessary as a principle. I mean, if you're thinking that masters is necessary for a great job or a career, that's the wrong thinking. But strategically, if it evolves as a necessity or as a great step, then it's good. So, for example, I thought that in my Bachelor of Engineering, all the kind of jobs that people were getting at that point of time, I did not like any of that. So I thought, let's do a master in economics and then try to get in the economics field. I have actually wanted to do PhD in economics, but after econometrics and a lot of other such subjects, I realized that PhD would be very difficult for me because my temperament is different. So I went for a job, and that job I always knew was a step towards my own company. So I think by the first year of my master's, I realized what I wanted to do. I think as quickly as possible, people should be able to identify what they want to achieve and do, and then walk towards that. Will be much more fulfilling and much more efficient to do the masters after realizing that versus deciding on as a principle that masters is important or necessary. On job or internship, I've actually written a LinkedIn post a few months ago. It went viral, a few million views and 3,000, 4,000 likes. And I basically wrote about how to find jobs. And so in IITs, one of my colleagues from IIT Delhi, and IIT Delhi is one of the best places to study as an engineer in India. And so they have a number. You have to apply at 500 places in order to get a good internship. Okay, and so and most of the people don't understand this. Like, it takes a lot of time and a lot of efforts, and this whole reliance on college placements as something which will be served on you on a platter is wrong. I had a colleague in my junior year at Gokhale. Like, I was 2010 graduate, she was 2011, and I still remember she wrote to around 700-800 different companies through her connects. She was really well connected, and she got 5 internships, including some of the best banks. I think JP Morgan Chase and so on. And so she really had to slog her ass off to sort of achieve what she wanted to. So first is that it will take a lot of efforts and in the right direction. The second is, I think Indian students and generally students around the world, they don't understand businesses really well. Like, if you want a job in business, then you have to understand business. Their complete focus is on themselves. Like, what is my objective, what I know, what I want to do, and all that. The reality is that you're getting hired to achieve a certain function of the company which you're getting hired for. And so the focus should be on what you can do to help the company achieve. And this is true for all life. My first manager, I was really horrible in my first job. And the reason was I always used to demand the best work out there. And I used to ask, I want to do this modeling work. I really know well, I understood SAS well, and I want to build models, the logistic models on credit, scoring of credit cards. And I really loved that work. But all they used to give in CitiBank Global Services, all they used to give me was this Word file, which was supposed to be the post modeling documentation, which was sent to the bank official for regulatory purposes. For a 20 odd something student from a college who just got into job, considering himself as James Bond, Word file edit karna was something which was too boring for me. And ultimately I left that job, but I got a good manager for a few months at the end. And she told me that, Vardhan, how can we trust you for the best job if you can't do the bad job really well? Like, if you can't do a Word file really well, then how can we handle you the programming job? And that changed and that is one of the slides which I wrote, that good people are good at everything. I ideally should have, and a lot of my peers at that company, really, they're doing good in life. They actually did that Word file really well initially. And I kept I kept, complaining about that. And so, coming back to your question on what to do, I think the right thing to do is to first understand the businesses. Due to the fear and that whole thing that how will I get job, send my CV to every place. I get mails saying that sir, here is my CV. Please see if I'm fit for any job. What the, like, how will I identify her? So the best things which I have gotten and where I have instantly responded is they do study on what I do, which I think is not possible for everyone. But if you're asking my thing, identify a few 5, 6, 10 places where you want to be. Identify the right places, right people to reach out to on LinkedIn or anywhere. Prepare a write-up or a presentation. So I prepared a write-up. I actually built a brochure on me for a company after CitiBank. When I left CitiBank, I actually built a brochure on myself and gave it to 5 entrepreneurs in Bangalore. 2 of them bit the bullet and called me to Bangalore. I got the job in one. So that is something which I did to get my first job outside the placement. Placement is something which Gokhale got from their own reputation. My wife never, Surabhi never gave a interview outside Gokhale. So she was in Genpact until last year. Then she left the job. And then she contemplated giving interviews and reaching out to people, did not. Ultimately, someone from IBM reached out to her saying, we want you, and then she got selected in that. So you get lucky sometime. I've struggled for every single job I've achieved. Udacity, I prepared a presentation on how to open up India for a tech company. This is a 17 slides presentation. I got the job competing with Stanford graduates and all. The TripAdvisor, again, I did a write-up, 6-page write-up. So yeah, over to you.
Cool, super. So because of the whole startup, of course, everyone is looking to get a lot of information from you. But the first thing that would come to my mind is, and keeping in mind the 6%, I think, 6 people who said, 4 to 6 people who responded that they might want to start up immediately after college. What would you, now in hindsight, what would you think are the mistakes, or what do you avoid when starting up in college itself? So let's say if they plan to start up now.
So the previous company which I consulted, FamPay, was started by college graduates. Like, they literally came out of IIT Roorkee and got 30 crores of funding from Y Combinator. But that is one case among hundreds of such cases. Statistically impossible. And so usually what you're talking about is just came out of college, have no idea how the world works mostly, and you're trying to build a business. This usually happens in the West from Stanford and Harvard, where you graduate from a college and you start something based on the insight that you are privy to. And so Y Combinator is my go-to guide for everything startup. That is the best resource out there. Reason, again, data. One entrepreneur will only know about their own case. A VC firm will only know about a certain number of cases where they have invested. But Y Combinator invests in 600 startups a year, and they have invested in 3,500 startups till now. So they have statistical understanding of how startups work. And so they have multiple resources there's a startupschool.org, which is run by Y Combinator, that you all should look at if you want to start up. And they break down everything really well. So short answer, unless you believe that you have an insight that the market can utilize in a much more efficient manner, and that only you can do that by the virtue of you being really interested in that, or you being really good at something, I think it's more prudent to find a job in the same field and understand the nuances, build certain connections, and then jump into that. Because the reality is that except IITs and BITS, I think it's also becoming prominent in startups. But apart from these institutions, investors really do not invest in students. Y Combinator also invests heavily in elite school graduates. So which means that if you're starting right now, unless you have something to build without a lot of money and get certain revenue or users, the chances are the investment will come really late and might not come early on. And so I would suggest that you build connections and insights inside a company in the same field where you're trying to start up, and then start up really quickly after that. Not more than a couple of years is required. Experience is not as much required as much as the connections and the confidence in the insights.
Cool, super. So then how did you go about with your entire startup with RidinGo? I mean, so like why Bangalore? Or in fact, I mean, if you could share with them what your line of thought was when you sort of figured out, or how did you find that this was a gap in the market and therefore this is something you wanted to do? Or basically, how did you land on this idea?
Yeah, so I used to take an auto to my place in Mumbai, and then when I shifted to Bangalore in this startup, I used to take an auto, and I used to watch Bangalore's traffic, which is still a nightmare today, crumble, and I would see all across me all the cars with just one person sitting inside, and I used to count that, look, there are 50 more seats empty in this field of vision. 50 more people could have driven in that, and I thought that maybe something is possible. And this was a great idea, and it's actually worked out for some companies, not for us at that scale, because I really bad in other places. So I actually failed miserably in a lot of fronts and did not do it really well. But it gave me a head start. It gave me the confidence to start up. It gave me an understanding of how investment works, how building company works. And I think that gave me enough confidence to get better positions in large companies where I learned a little more. So coming back, how did that? I think I was always under the opinion that responsible capitalism is the solution to most problems of the world, and I always wanted to build a lot of impact and wealth, which is not possible through job. Like you build Excel, put your salary, put whatever increment you want to. If you want to have a lot of freedom in what you want to do in the world, then jobs most probably won't achieve it. And there's no harm in like some of the most happy people I know are in good jobs. I think the only other thing I would have done is being a professor, because you have a lot of impact and seemingly better life. I don't know, Ashish or sir might differ from me, but I think this is a more fulfilling life than any other job where you have students and relatively stable understanding of what will happen over the year. But in corporates, again, this is not as stable, first of all, and not so much economic impact coming in. And so I thought that I'll always do startups. So that's why when this idea came, and with my belief in building wealth, I thought, let's give it a try. So I was under illusion and really bad understanding a lot of things, but ultimately that led me to jump, and I learned swimming as I jumped into the pond. So that's what happened. For now, I would say that the resources are great. The YouTube is great. There's so many good resources available for people to really understand. And if you find the right resource, it's important for you to trust it. Because somehow, as a student, I found I was not able to build trust on a lot of things. Like, for example, if an Indian author would write a paper, I would not find it trustworthy as something from Harvard or Chicago Booth School and all. And that is a very elitist, very bad state of mind to be in, because a lot of people are doing a lot of good work. And it's only later on I realized, for example, I used to watch only Hollywood movies for longest time. It took a lot of time to appreciate and understand what the other things are coming from, because when you're young, you don't have identity, you don't have original ideas, you hang on to certain identity which is well accepted in the world, and hence all the YouTuber and influencers are doing so well. And it's important to find that identity in original things. Like, for example, what is the best book, what is the best movie, what's the best music? If you can find answer without referring to a rating, then you're probably doing well. But if you don't have a good answer of why that is really good, if you can't dissect it and apply that principle to identify the second good thing, then there's a good likeliness that you're a victim of influence. And that is something which I found myself to be really a bad victim of for a large part of my life, and which I've come out of. And now I look at things, and that is probably also the function of confidence. I was not confident that I can identify what is good or what is not without looking at what others are saying, what is good or what is not. And if you can get that confidence, that'll be a good place to be. Sorry for the digression, Saylee.
Super. No. I mean, but no, it's a very valid point, because that's how all these trends and generally, people are, you follow and you have so many followers and viewership, but that's because they are tapping into what they know people want to see. So
Exactly.
it works for them, but you're falling prey to it. So yeah, absolutely. So because we were talking about reaching out, and you mentioned that it's even out of campus placements are important, and how you use your connect and how you leverage. So how so according to you, what's the best approach, or to reach out and leverage, let's say maybe or Twitter or LinkedIn, and to have good presence early on in life, and just reach out to people.
Yeah, I was really surprised at how some of very young folks have built an audience online. And I'm not talking about the influencer audience, I'm talking about audience for excellence. There's this guy called Rahul Mathur, um, who started writing about insurance in his final year of college. He was studying in some UK university, and he now had 5,000 plus followers on his newsletter on insurance. Imagine a kid who is not even in job or 1 year in job, and some of the world's best investors and insurance company executives were his readers. And then he started an insurance startup, and he got like 4 or 5 crores of funding, and Y Combinator acceptance and whatnot. And so building an audience is great, but I believe it's really tough. And imagine you're struggling with your grades, you want to have a job, and now somebody's asking you to build a startup. I think build a audience. I think it's something which, if you really want to do, you should do. Otherwise, you should start doing it once you get into a job. And I think the problem with generic advice is it assumes everyone to have a certain level of capability, excellence, and drive. And I think people have different drive for different things, and telling everyone to build an audience would be a bad advice. For example, Kush and Sambhav are far more successful, the founders of FamPay are far more successful teenage entrepreneurs, but they don't have an audience. I mean, now they have, but they didn't have an audience like Rahul. So the only thing that matters is to find your niche and be good at it and improve on it, which will serve you to find job as well. So, by the way, the story about me getting a good job in Gokhale, despite not doing well academically, was this gentleman. And this is a bad interview process. I hate that. I never do that myself, but I mean, it came to me at that point of time. The gentleman who was hiring from CitiBank, he asked a question that, can you tell me a distribution whose mean and average is same? I think mean and median same. And I didn't know the answer to it as such. Like, I didn't know that as an answer, but I started thinking about it. I said, I think any symmetric distribution should have that. And I think he was looking for a usual answer. I think normal distribution something, but and then he started talking about, so what do you do? I said, I read books. And he said, what was the latest book you read? And I said, Black Swan by Taleb. And he started talking about it, and I started discussing that, and then I got into a job. So it was not, and this is one of the biases, you think that people who have same interest as you have are also intelligent and really good, because you want to find your copy among yourself. So I got job because of that, but I don't do that right now, but people get influenced by that. So if you can find things where you can find similarities, and like, for example, I approached an investor with the same interest in certain series as he had, and started talking about that. it did build a connection, and I utilized that. So sometimes these things might work if you're trying to approach someone, but general excellence in what you're trying to do is the most important thing at the end of the day. I think we have some questions.
Yeah. Sahil has a question. If you want to
Yeah.
take that.
What do you especially looking candidates, interns and full-time employees? First, do they know what I want? It's like, I'm looking for Android engineer. If you don't know Android, building Android products, I can't. And so it's really important to understand that startups are always trying to do stuff very fast and very economically, which means that they generally cannot hire for general positions. And so if you're trying to work at a startup, for example, I tried getting a job at Redbus, which was hot in 2011.
Yeah.
And I met the founder because he saw my brochure, he found my profile to be interesting. He called me at a great cafe in Bangalore. We were sitting and he said, so what you can do for Redbus? I said, whatever you ask me to. He said, what do you do right now? I said, I work at CitiBank Data Analytics. He said, can you build models for us? I said, yeah, I can try to, but I've not built anything apart from logistic models. He said, okay. And while we talked about for the next half an hour, but I never got a job. Because the reality is he has only a limited budget to achieve what they want for the company. And if I can't contribute to that, then there's no point in hiring me. So this whole notion of you'll write to someone, they like you, and they'll generally hire you is a bad advice. And that's why getting a job when out of the college is really, really tough, because you're generally not good at any specific thing which is required in the industry. And so therefore internships are your best tool to find a job, because internships are being indeed given to folks without any specific skills. So I might hire someone as an intern if they are learning something and I want that thing to be utilized in my company. So even if you don't know Android as such, but if you have built certain streams, if you know some React Native, which is all technical terms, but if you know some part of it, I might still employ because you're low cost help to my main developer. And there, if you learn things and if you build things and you give your portfolio when you're looking for a job, people give you job. So I think the most structured ways to find an internship or work for free for someone, I mean, work for free is bad, but work for low cost consider this as an investment in your training, and then jump over that. I think you should also not optimize for salaries in the initial jobs. I think people optimize too much for salaries. While we are living in a good economic condition right now, so people are generally getting decent salaries. But if you can optimize for initial learning, and this is a bad advice just 5 years off the call, 5 years down the line, but really good advice until the first 5 years, because your foundation of how you will perform in corporate world is laid in first 2-3 years at most. So you don't need to keep doing things for learning after 5 years. So you should optimize for salary, you should optimize for location and work-life balance after 5 years. But the first 5 years, just work.
Super.
Anything else?
We have one more. What is something you felt corporates do wrong when you work there?
Yeah, so that's something which I've come to realize, that nobody is wrong. In terms of like, if you're running a huge company and if it's profitable and if there are thousands of employees there, then they're doing things right. Because it's really tough to do anything worthwhile. And that is one of those things. People love to complain about things, but the reality is that, and I used to also say corporate guys take a lot of time to take decisions and a lot of approvals. I hated one thing. I have hated wearing formal clothes. Right now I'm in my shorts. So I work out of my shorts and t-shirt. I hate wearing formal clothes, partially because my build is such that I don't get comfortable formal clothes. So, but the thing is that all of these things are there for a reason. For example, Infosys or TCS implemented wearing ties for the Mondays and Tuesdays. And I used to think that this is almost like slavery. But you know what happened? When I went for my first investment meeting, I wore formals, not a tie, but I wore formals. And I realized that if I really believed in not wearing formals, I would have gone in my t-shirt and jeans in that meeting as well. But I was afraid that maybe they'll judge me. And so the reality is that you have to understand what businesses your corporate is trying to run. If you're a corporate company, if a corporate conglomerate like TCS, their business is in getting contracts from other large companies. And so they have to appear excellent and capable. And generally, such is our human this thing, that a person wearing a suit looks much more knowledgeable and confident and accomplished than a person wearing t-shirts and shorts. Not in Silicon Valley, but yeah, everywhere else. So corporates do a lot of things wrong for you, but there's a reason behind that so-called wrong. That's what my answer would be.
Super. Yes, I had one quick follow-up on the Twitter and LinkedIn. So basically, when you were talking about building out your profile or a brochure of sorts, yeah. So is there any one or any recommendation you would give in, to learn the art of making good presentations,
I've actually taken just a few days ago, I've taken a small session on how to make good presentations, but it's a very widely loved topic, and so there are really nice resources online for that. And I think Startup School has one on making pitch decks, but what I can do is I can share the link of something I think covers most of these things and share it with you guys.
Super. Yeah. That would be great.
It's a whole topic in itself, but yeah.
So we'll gladly get you back here to talk only about presentations the next time. So
this Shashank's last question is,
yeah,
with full superpower. I hate these questions because it really won't achieve anything for anyone who's listening this, but just for the sake of fun, if full superpower, I'll probably change my weight, man. Yeah, no, I mean, on a serious note, I have infinite things to change. So not a great question and an answer I have to that thing. But thanks for having me, guys. And
super. Ashish, any questions?
No, thank you for making the time, man. I mean, with a startup on a Monday morning to spend an hour with us is the ultimate sacrifice.
I felt so guilty when you said 8th, and I was like, oh my God, I forgot to write very clearly. It was Monday to Friday, and I was like, oh my God, how do I ask him for time on a Monday morning? But
there's a certain emotional connection with your alma mater. And I anyway felt guilty about not coming back there until now. So, but hope somebody would take one sliver of a learning which I shared and probably have some impact on their life. It'll be enough.
That's the hope. That's the hope.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that's the whole point of doing this series, right? So what would you have done better if you were in college now? Basically, that's the outline. So great. This was amazing.
Thank you, everyone. And
Thanks for that.
Hopefully I'll meet in person sometime.
Absolutely. Please make that happen.